Okay, hi, everybody. This is the Conservation Board meeting. I'm Michael DeChellis. I'm calling it to order. We only have 3 sitting board members, and one of them is out due to a work thing. So McKendra, it's you and I as board members.
Rhea,
And we have one other person in the room we'll talk about in a second. We've got a fairly easy agenda today. The first, so that was roll call. The first is approval of minutes, and we actually don't have meeting minutes from our last meeting yet. So that is, we're not going to be able to do that right now. I'll make note. We do have some meeting minutes attached, but they're actually the April ones from 2021, which isn't quite right. So if it's okay, I would like
do
to,
we need minutes from today? I can like.
we'll make, it'd actually be a good point.
I can spread down a good thing.
Yeah, if you don't mind, that'd be helpful.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful, especially like votes and things. And that way we can just, we'll send a little summary later on.
Yeah.
It's a little easier. If you're trying to be comprehensive, just put a little time next to it too, because I know that we need to do that. So I guess I can move to delay approval of it. Well, I don't even know if we need any motions for this. It's on the agenda. So actually, I move to delay any approval of meeting minutes until we get the proper ones attached.
Seconded,
All in favor? Aye. Yes. Consider application received. So we have 2 vacancies. We have one application that we have received from Spencer Bruce, who is here in the room. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Spencer.
Yeah, likewise.
So this one is I'd like to just introduce. We'll give Spencer, we'll give you a chance to introduce yourself in just a second. But just the process of this is that when we receive applications we have an open period of time for applications. All the applications that come in during that time are considered. And during the time that we had open for one of our 2 vacancies, we had 1 application only, which was Spencer. And so now we are reviewing the applications, and then we have the option of recommending to the city manager and the commission the applicant that we think should be appointed to the board based on what's available to us. We don't have to make a recommendation. So that's an option, but there you go. So if it's okay, Spencer, I'd like to just give you a chance to introduce yourself, maybe why you want to join the board, what your background is, and
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. Well, yeah, thanks again for having me. So just, I guess my 30-second elevator pitch is moved to Bozeman around 2013 for graduate school. Since 2015, I've worked in sort of the low carbon fuels space, so involved in renewable energy type stuff for almost a decade now. Moved over to Livingston a few years ago and just have been trying to get more involved in the community. It seems like a great opportunity, sort of right up my alley. So I'm pretty plugged into a lot of different types of renewable energy type things. I'm really plugged into recycling. My facility shares space with the recycling plant in Bozeman, where all of our material goes from Park County. So I know those guys really well. I worked with them for years. So yeah, pretty tuned in there. Pretty excited about home solar and EVs and all that. I've put a solar system on my house in the fall, and I've been having fun watching that and excited to talk about it with anyone that'll listen. So yeah, that's sort of the gist of, my background, kind of relevant to this, definitely excited about getting involved however I can.
Maybe we'll take a second and, McKendra, do you have any questions? So two questions for him or comments in general
Well, I
about?
have a question.
Sure.
I think the first-
Yeah.
What is your like volunteer experience? Like, obviously, we all choose to be here for free.
Sure.
So just wondering.
Yeah, here in town, I've gotten pretty involved with the Livingston Bike Club. So we just built a new bike trail on some city county land, just up on Myers Bench. I've been plugging with those guys quite a bit. My partner works for PCEC as well, so I've been,
Oh, who is it?
Bethany Allen. She's newer, she does noxious weed monitoring type stuff. But yeah, anyway, I've been plugging into a lot of their stuff as well. So that's sort of the local, more recent things.
I guess what I was getting at is like, do you have time to?
Yeah, I don't really have
like,
any,
it's like a volunteer on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
evening? That's,
yeah, work-wise,
I feel like the hardest part of things.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, work-wise, I'm pretty flexible, for the most part. And the other stuff that, I don't have any other like volunteer commitments, I guess I would say it's all sort of at will, plugging in when I can. So I think this would fit in my schedule pretty well.
That was-
Cool. My question is actually related to, you kind of mentioned some of the stuff you're excited about. What do you think we do here? How about that?
My understanding of how it should work at least is that the city commissioners should, and city government in general should lean on this board for advice and consulting and whatever else on things related to energy efficiency and recycling and various other conservation measures that city government has to make decisions on and do things with.
Thanks for introducing yourself. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you so much for applying. It's awesome. It's so important. I'd like to make, so then the way this works is I'm gonna make a motion that we recommend to the city manager and commission that Spencer Bruce be appointed to the conservation board. If you'd like to
I'll
second, okay, if you'd like to second it, now the motion's on the table, now we can discuss it. You can start.
I'm well to aware.
Oh, I know, it's. Austere, I don't.
I mean, it sounds like he has a background in conservation, lives in the community. It'd be great to have another person who's conservation minded. I don't have any.
Yeah. Great. My comment is very similar. I feel like, especially after putting together a couple of things for the next agenda item, recycling.
Yeah,
I think it's so cool to have somebody on the board that knows a lot of stuff, or at least is adjacent in a way that's really able to move the needle and just provide context and help. And I'm really excited to have just working professionals in the scene care about the community. So pretty sure I'll vote.
I already said that. You call it.
Let's do the vote.
You call it.
All right, all in favor?
Welcome.
Well, welcome to the first step, being recommended to the. So I'll go ahead, we'll send that recommendation. Okay. Awesome.
Is that city commission meeting where that's discussed something I should tune into or attend? Is that a good idea?
Pete? Okay, you. Yeah. I can say I haven't seen the city commission upset about an applicant not showing up to a meeting or, recommendation. It's good. So. So recycling discussion. I'd like to make a motion to suspend Robert's rules and make this more conversational for this item.
Second.
So what that means to me is just speak up. Please join the conference.
Great.
And anybody that calls in, participates and isn't at the farmer's market right now, can do that.
We have.
Half of it, the other half, the half of it. So. This one, I'm gonna go ahead and. There. That worked. Okay, so I made just a presentation format to just launch the discussion of recycling. And this is by no means comprehensive and is mostly recycled material from other sources. But I just want to make sure we all started on the same page on where, like, where recycling goes, what the basics are, and then we can kind of get into the fun part of the discussion. I think what I'd like to get out of this discussion is this is kind of the first step to identifying ways that we want to affect recycling in the community. And I would encourage, certainly encouraging myself and us, those who like outside the box is totally cool. This is focused on communication because it's kind of a low-hanging fruit and something that we've been, that's specifically in our bylaws. But if there's structural changes that we think are useful to explore, especially after this presentation, just let me know. And I apologize if if they end up being a little basic, but I want to make sure we're all on the same page and kind of start from there. So. Okay, so the first is recycling is dropped off at the transfer station for Livingston. Then it's trucked 40 miles, most of it is trucked 40 miles by our partner Four Corners Recycling to their Belgrade facility where it's sorted and bundled. And when they can find non-conforming items, they're thrown away. Then it's sold to large scale buyers across the country according to contracts that Four Corners can secure. So that's basically how our recycling works.
Do we know where those large scale buyers are? Is that part of the-
It isn't. I showed that, I showed the trip to Four Corners, but during some of my discussions with Four Corners, I mean, they are everywhere. For example, like our glass all pretty much goes to Salt Lake City, but our especially cardboard is just all over the map. A lot of them are East Coast or Central, like getting closer to Chicago and those kinds of areas. And but one of the interesting things about their business model is hustling and trying to find those things, and they change.
What is interesting?
some bullets here. Our recycling is a privilege that we pay. It costs us money. And I love the contradictory thing. So there's sort of two things that that our partners were influencing or were emphasizing. We don't throw things away. We throw them at other communities. I love that. We throw all of our trash at Great Falls, where it gets trucked. The Four Corners in particular was really quite dedicated to diverting it as much as they can from the landfill. And so it was surprising when the second big, phrase of the day was, when in doubt, throw it out. And I thought that was interesting to hear those contradictions. So let's talk about that. We visited Four Corners in August 2021. I just made sure that most of the conclusions in this were still the same and relevant, and they are. And our tour master was Abe. And it was really eye-opening. In fact, Lindsay made a little video here on welcome to Recycle Monkey, which doesn't. Okay. So we took a whole bunch of video during that one, by the way. I have it available for viewing if that becomes relevant to our discussion. Here's some photos. There's a mountain of glass. There's a whole bunch of scrap metal. There's a bunch of cardboard, and then a whole bunch of bins with specialized sorting in their little building that they have there. I say little. The specialized sorting building is little. The rest of the warehouse structures are a fairly large size, but not even close to enough to store some of the bundles that they need to store for when the market is terrible, which is kind of part of their story that we heard that I didn't appreciate very well. So some economic realities. Montana doesn't have enough people to make recycling a good business to be in, is the bottom line. There's not enough people for heavy processing, and there's not enough recycling to make large scale facilities available. That's viable, right? That's the bottom line. We have 1 million people. We have 3 times as many cows as people, a huge land mass, and we are we're just not concentrated enough to make recycling, especially in the way that people that move here are used to work economically. So Four Corners has to contend with a couple of things. When they get like a cardboard pallet together and they take it, to halfway to the East Coast, and they have a sale, they're trying to sell it to somebody. They are hoping that they were able to at least spot check all of the, non-conforming items out, because if they get it there and they start checking the pallet and things don't look good. After a few non-conforming items, the buyer either doesn't buy it or like discounts. So, we'll buy it at a ridiculous discount. Because any labor that it takes to take stuff apart and sanitize the recycling eats significantly into such a small margin already on their business. And this was what I was referring to based on your question, McKendra, is the, every waste stream purchasing agreement that has to be established by buyers in the US, and those are constantly changing. And so there's a lot of deal making that has to happen, and it's just constant. The market fluctuates significantly from like one season to the next. And they have to maneuver that market. And sometimes the only way they have to maneuver that market is by storing it until the market gets better. And they don't have the facilities or the the justification for investment to put large storage facilities in place for recycling until the economic realities change. So a lot of their stuff has to be, sitting outside and through the winter and all that stuff and just degrades and that's all fine, but it affects obviously the quality of the recycling material and then the price that they can get for things. So, and truthfully, their margins don't justify enough labor to make it like high quality recycling. And so, I really didn't appreciate this very well. And I have a lot of gratitude to Abe that he was so just blunt and upfront about the way that they do things and why it's so important. I really I definitely came away from this totally changed perspective. And I really understand why I think the when in doubt, throw it out is one of their mantras. So that was fun and interesting. So this kind of gets into then what you can do. So what we in Livingston can do. Don't quote me on this first bullet, but it is in this, it is in the ballpark. 14 times less energy than a new can to recycle. And it's an incredibly high quality recycling proposition. Aluminum's amazing. It actually makes money. Crushed is always better because they can haul more with the same truck. You're not hauling air everywhere. And then I also just wanted to point out that Counterpoint does take some aluminum recycling drop-offs. And that was merely to show that they don't take other things. It is the only thing that's commercially viable as a recycling thing. I'm a member of the Rotary Club. We used to have the Rotary can barn in the Albertsons parking lot, and that made a lot of money for Rotary. It was a lot of manual labor. And we ended up shutting it down because we just couldn't keep up, especially for the amount, even though we were making a decent amount of money for the Children in Need Fund, it wasn't worth the labor that we had built into the way that thing was set up. In fact, I'm impressed with Four Corners and the way that their system is, because they can just, they don't, no bags, none of that stuff. You have to put the aluminum in the thing, which is quite annoying for the person dropping it off. But that means that they can haul a truck and come just link up and go. And then they just dump everything, and they don't have all that labor that the Rotary Club experienced, which ultimately shut us down. There was no way we could keep up. And we just closed the camera. So plastic. So this one's interesting. When you go to drop stuff off at the transfer station, there is a yes, no sign on this thing. And I just want to point this out, that it says it's number 1 and number 2 plastic, but only if the opening of the container is smaller than the diameter. And that's not actually shown here, but they do say no clamshell containers here. And what's in particular confusing is that, and notice there's tape over this that goes number 1, number 2 plastics, and then number 3 to number 7 plastics is no. And the reason they did that is most of the clamshell containers are now number 2, but they still cannot be recycled because they haven't, at least they can absolutely be recycled. They cannot be recycled viably by our recycling partner, Four Corners. And it's for a lot of reasons, but one of them specifically is that they have an additive in them that allows them to blow bigger than the opening, and it changes where they recycle, which was very interesting nuance that I didn't understand. And I think a constant source of consternation for Four Corners because it's the, it says number two. The same with like all the plastic bags that like that you can get from TNC and Albertsons. Those are, well, TNC ones anyway are number two. But they are not recyclable in our number two plastic bag. And so this is something that just kind of people don't understand because why would you? I mean, that's confusing. Cardboard. When it's good quality, it can be great to recycle and profitable, and when it's not good quality, it can be an absolute business killer. So that's why they say clean cardboard only. It's fine, just not too much, but absolutely no food scraps, any kind, grease stains, none of that stuff. That stuff kills a pallet if it shows up. And they will get, so they'll transport, you know, I mean, they do some sorting as best they can at the facility, but they don't have the people to do, you know, hand sort everything. And then they will, so they'll bundle up and they'll ship it halfway across the country. They'll get there and have to be thrown in the trash, which is absolutely tragic. So that's something. Glass, this is what I said, they have a pretty reliable buyer for glass that goes just in Salt Lake City. Just rinse containers and remove the lids, and no, you know, essentially non-container glass of any kind. Paper, same deal, clean, please. No cardboard in this one, you know, things like magazines and catalogs that have little cardboard inserts are no big deal though. And then I bag shredded paper, which is something they can see really easily, so they can pull that stuff as it's coming out, they'll grab it. But they want it bagged because otherwise it blows all over the place. It's a source of litter. Here are other recycling. We have scrap metal that's collected by Four Corners. They like that. There's a giant pile of scrap metal that I think I showed in one of those pictures. That one is a fairly profitable size of their business, I think. E-waste is collected by Yellowstone E-Waste Solutions. That I don't know much about. I haven't talked to anybody over there. I don't know what they do with it now that, you know.
You know where they're located?
Like Yellowstone E-Waste Solutions. It's a good question.
Are they in Billings?
Look them up somewhere out there.
And there's one out of Helena that does it, but I'm not sure if that's his business. Yeah, that one's good.
Yeah, they hosted a green tree. Pretty cool.
Well, I don't know.
You don't have to look it up, you said that one is the Billings one?
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so I've been there before.
Oh, you have?
Yeah,
Well, why don't you tell the audience?
they hosted a Billings green tree one time and like took us through their whole operation and like, you know, you offer beer, people come. And so they were just an education piece on like what they take and how much energy it takes. It's actually pretty cool how much energy it takes to break down as opposed to buying a new computer. Like, you know, how much they're saving, so.
Hmm.
They were great.
Good. They do on their website, they have a ton of like, you know, like save the world, you know, that kind of thing. So I think they feel pretty strongly that they're doing that. The balance looks good for them.
Yeah, and
Sounds
they
like-
seem to be knowledgeable about it,
I would be,
and really wanted to like educate the community.
did they know, or did you find out who, like, where is it going and who's taking the stuff apart? and all
I'd be happy to reach out, that would be helpful.
I mean. Let's talk about it. It might be, you know.
Yeah, like I said, I've been there. They have a lot of broken computers and
Mhm.
lots of stuff I didn't even know what they were.
Mhm.
But did a really good job of the like community education piece that night.
Hmm. Hmm. Well,
And I think they do an annual like e-waste drive. Where I don't know if it's at the farmer's market. But they do something where they like set up an event for people to bring their e-waste.
Aaron Livingston?
No, I don't.
Cool. I mean, that's definitely, I think it's pretty cool that we have a. You know, just a place that you can take. Stuff in the, you know, to the transfer station, and so just a little.
Yeah.
Hut that they have, and you go and. It's kind of fun to go in there and see what people have thrown away, Yeah, I think it'd be, so it's part of this education thing, I think is the really, you know, kind of important thing, because well, so then we have green waste, which is handled by the city. And that's free to drop off. And I think that's it. I mean, there's also a list of things that the city takes that are, like, there's a pallet of batteries out there, so you can drop that, you know, like lead acid batteries off. What else?
I think they do like waste motor oil and
Yeah.
antifreeze and stuff like that, probably at a charge.
Yeah, you would know about that.
A little bit.
Do they? Yeah,
I'm not sure where it is out there, I've never taken it here.
and you know, that's what's available at the transfer station. I added this presentation, I didn't, but I pulled it out, but I probably should have left it in, but there's other ways to get rid of things, you know. We've got Happy Trash Can, it does compost. We do have. Brew company that does. Waste cooking oil. For pickup. Are there any other waste streams that I'm missing? That y'all know of? I just kind of want to be comprehensive in our list.
I don't know, I've always thought about recycling in the same way that I think about energy is like. The best way to save energy is not to use it.
Mhm.
I think recycling is like super important. I think there's also a component. You know, how do you not use the plastic bags? at B&B?
So. That's why there's 3 R's and that's the last one.
Yeah.
Yeah. People kind of brush over, reduce and reuse. But they're more important, in terms of impact, I think. I agree.
No, that's not what we're talking about.
No, it's an important comment, though. It's just like, what can you do? These are just, again, the takeaways. When in doubt, throw it out. Don't pray it's recyclable and put it in the bin just in case. That hurts the whole thing. Like, people need to really understand that. It is, unless we change the way that we do recycling wholesale in a very different way, we are not going to, you're just gonna make the problem worse. You might as well not recycle. I hate to say it that way, but when in doubt, throw it out. But when you're throwing it out, remember, we don't throw our trash away. We just, it doesn't just magically disappear. We throw our trash at other communities. These things are going, this stuff is just going in the ground at massive scale. And just because we don't see it on a daily basis doesn't mean it's not happening. It does not just disappear. So when in doubt, throw it out. But remember, you don't throw it away. you throw it at somebody. So therefore, recycle all you can. And use the guidelines that are presented in order to recycle, all you can. And so that just means being engaged and dropping that stuff off and doing it in a way that conforms with exactly what the guidelines are. And just don't hem and haw about it, really. You know, and I'm not saying that people shouldn't be annoyed about having to process things quite as much as they do. I'm actually saying that that is annoying, but it's worth it. Like, it's awesome. I mean, it really is like doing something for your community, for the bottom line of your community, doing something certainly for the environment. And I'd say, you know, really just doing something for yourself in the sense that you're engaged with what happens with your waste. And that's, you know, that's life as a life examined, you know, and that's, I think it's really cool. There's other ways, to reduce and divert waste though, like we've reviewed. The green waste facility, green can program, those are good things if you have that much, if you have enough to fill a green can. Happy Trash Can is curbside pickup. There's even an active recycling curbside courier service in
Really?
town.
I didn't know about
Yeah. Something that I use and I quite enjoy it because it, you know, helps, you know, pay somebody some extra money and they'll transport your personal recycling to the transfer station for you. I thought that was good. So I added a whole bunch of links in here. And this is where I was hoping that we could start some of our discussion. Let's see if that's what I said. Okay, yeah. So just look at these, some of the resources available. You know, we've got our Livingston recycling page, and I do want to get to that in a second. We have a plastic and glass recycling guidance document. We have an e-waste guidelines from 2017 that are posted on their webpage. We Recycle Montana, which owns Four Corners Recycling, is a pretty good resource. Their website's got this really cool recycle guide single sheet that I stole a couple graphics from during the presentation. They have links to videos, some in-depth things. I was impressed because there's like a PBS in-depth thing that was done in 2019 that talks about recycling in Montana. And then, like we talked about, Yellowstone E-Waste Solutions, and they have some you know, pretty good stuff on their website. So, I mean, I think the low-hanging fruit on this is, I think recycling options for the city, you know, in terms of education, are something to discuss. Obviously, a couple of years ago, before we got distracted by other topics, this was something that the Conservation Board started to look at because we went to recycling center and took video, everything. Has two benefits: helps our partners stay profitable, which ultimately just reduces costs for the city. And it connects people to what they're doing when they recycle. So I think that's actually really important. But, you know, having to physically manage your trash is, I think, a thing that just makes you more aware of it. Something that personally impacts you. I mean, that said, I don't know what that actually does for the effort of recycling. I'd be curious, you know, is it more, do you get more benefit by having people be more kind of engaged with what happens, or by trying to remove what happens as much as possible, you know, so that it's as convenient as possible?
I mean, recycling is never going to be convenient. because of all of the reasons that you laid out earlier, right? About like what is recyclable and what is not recyclable. And unless you're someone that's really engaged in this and feel compelled to do it. Like, I think that's the biggest barrier. It's like, even if you want to recycle, but it isn't like your mission in life to save the planet, you're just feeling like it's way too confusing. And then there's all the headlines about like China not taking plastics anymore, and then just, there's all of this other stuff that is happening around recycling. But like, I mean, personally, I think some of the best ways are like you said, the low hanging fruit, like there's recycling at the farmer's market. Having one of us or someone who is working on recycling be like, actually, no, you can't recycle that. And that like places that people are already at. I don't know. It's just, it seems like the barrier is I'm gonna take all this time to recycle, and then the New York Times tells you that all your recycling. Like, feels like a big barrier, and so finding ways to educate where people already are. To me, seems like it's good. If people are already going up to like a trash can, but there's a person there. I think it's PCEC that has the tent with the
Yeah.
recycling.
They're actively doing it right now.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, to me, those always seem like better ways to engage with people. And help them understand like, yep, that's recyclable, that's not, and this is why, and you get that one thing in your head. And then like the next time you don't put your pizza on. And it is a slow burn, for sure. But that's how you get the people,
Yeah, totally.
and that's fine.
Just
I'm
like,
the
no, like.
community organizer, so like.
Oh, yeah, no, this is, fan, are you kidding me? This is fantastic. This is, I mean, one of the things that didn't occur to me. But you kind of articulated. Was. I forgot, in this world of. Kind of misinformation, say, right? Like, people will find reasons to justify. Why they're like, because, and it's interesting, like that one thing where it's like, well, yeah, all the recycling goes, so, let's make a broad false statement that. Okay, all the recycling goes to China, it's all plastic, and you know what they do with it? They just throw it out.
Well, and they stopped taking it like 2 years ago.
Right, so,
It's like a huge story, and I've heard it 1,000 times. So,
yeah,
like, it's recycling because no one's taking it. It's just going into landfills, and that's not actually true. But I think that is like kind of the narrative out there, and so if you can get the message out in a more like community focused place, like the farmers market. Or, I don't know, like, if we want to talk about recycling in Livingston, we need to be talking about it in Livingston. And like giving the information that, like, this is what happens in Livingston with our recycling.
totally,
I don't know what the heck is going on with China, but like, that's not what's happening here.
right.
And we know the
Like, we
people-
follow the recycling, like, we
Yeah,
know.
like, we know where it's going, we know the people, we've talked to them, and I think that that's what people need to feel connected to their waste. And honestly, feel a little bit of guilt about not
Well,
recycling. I'm all for.
And that's, yeah, exactly, it's a fun tool, I mean, my parents use that on me all the time. I mean, no, but it's, and the other thing is like, when people are saying things like. Well, but like, I'll just say cynical things, like, well, it all gets thrown away anyway. When they say things like that. There's actually something in there that indicates that they actually want to recycle, that they would if they felt like it was.
That's why I think this.
It was useful. And so I think that's, yeah, exactly. Like, I think and that was kind of my aha from your point. Was I realized, oh yeah, I mean, there's really, especially when someone is kind of. At the point of refuting something or discounting something. That's the moment when they actually want to engage. And so do we have the information available?
Well, and it feels so big,
That would be
right? Plastic and recycling feels so big. But if you can say, like, no, actually, this is where it goes. This is what happens to it. It like brings it down to the community level. And I think that really makes people think twice about
Yeah.
throwing something in a way that they shouldn't. At least that's been my experience, like when you can bring it down to the local level, people tend to, especially in a place like Livingston, like this is. Tight knit community, it's a small community, if you can tell people like actually what it means. They're more likely to do it, which is why I think your presentation was really great, showing like. This is the person who you visited them, they talked to us,
Sure,
and
yeah,
it doesn't have to be that intense. But if there's any way that we can educate about like, no, we know exactly where it goes, and it's just over in the four corners, it's not going to China.
right.
It's going over here. We've seen my facilities, they're great, like. I feel like that connects with people way more. Than I dropped it in a bid.
What do you think?
Yeah, I like the farmer's market idea. I think there's an opportunity there to expand on like the why. Like they do a really good job of like, no, put that there, that you have to throw that away, but like.
The why,
Like, but why can't I put this here? It's more just like, let me do it for you, is what I've seen
that's
hanging
true.
around that booth there. So I don't know what that looks like of educating the folks that are handling that every Wednesday. To try to give them more info,
Okay.
or
this
a
is-
poster to.
Yeah,
hang
a
on the
poster of
trees
some
there,
kind, right?
Or
Like,
a pamphlet or something, I'm not sure, but
Going over to that area to recycle. Want to recycle, it's like that's your own. That's the low hanging fruit.
That's a
right?
brilliant setup too, 'cause I think that's almost like the only waste disposal in the whole park on Wednesday nights is in that tent, so you
Is
have to.
it is.
I think they
yeah,
remove
you're right.
almost.
Yeah.
else.
I guess I didn't realize it's.
You almost have, yeah, everyone's kind of funneled into there, so it's an awesome opportunity to reach a lot of people every week.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, it's fun, so it's like. So I'm glad that you mentioned this, because especially with that, like. Where I did this presentation because it's a. Board meeting, and this is a way that we can consume information during the meeting. This is not the way that we're gonna educate the masses, like people aren't going to watch this video and, read this presentation. So it's almost like if we were to, like. It's like the guidelines and the why. Was kind of that topic. Cool thing, and we kind of got in, and I really like the sort of FAQ sort of approach where it's like. But doesn't all of it go to China, and then like literally just like say, not here, this is da 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 da.
In my, not in my backyard person, I'm just saying, I think that that's the narrative that has been spread nationally. And like you've done the research to show that that's not what's happening here, and probably not in a lot of places.
Yeah,
That's just what the New York Times stated,
why,
like,
yeah,
and I love the New York Times. I'm just saying, I think that there is, especially in Montana, sense of place. And so knowing like, we know the people. It goes right over here, we know what happens to it, like it's just like the Montana. And I
yeah,
don't know how to do that. It's just, that's just what stuck out to me from all of this. Was your maps on, and like visiting a place and meeting in person and saying he was great, like, those are all such good tools. And I don't know what the best video,
well, actually,
that was the piece that I think.
that was kind of why I put it this way, which is like, we have the topics, and then we have ways to reach out. And so, I think. Maybe one of the opportunities here is that. I mean. I'm nerdy and interested enough to go and pursue a lot of things. But like, how do we communicate that out? I mean, and the bottom line is the same content, so to speak. Can get sent out in many different ways. I mean, we can have like. And we don't wanna, we don't want to overburden ourselves. I mean, let's just, you know, we also have a capacity issue here. So the question is like, what's the quickest way to make an impact? And actually, based on this discussion, I mean, here's a thought. So like, you know, somebody's is like, so definitely like what to do. I mean, there's a few like sort of areas, like what to do with a certain type of recycling. You know, some of those guidelines and the other things. It'd be nice to refresh sort of like what those come, you know, where those come from. I'm gonna hit stop share here so that we're full screen. I'm gonna pull something up. So that's one thing. Is just like where, you know, if we collect a few of these things, I mean, we actually have some great literature from like this one. So this is like recyclables, yes, and it says exactly what Four Corners will take. So this is what I said, I stole some stuff from them during the presentation. It's a single sheet. I mean, it's the kind of thing you can just hand out at the farmer's market if they're more interested in how. But I'm also like, you know, I'm wondering like, if we just showed up to this thing and helped out, we'd probably hear what people are most confused about as well. And then we could use that to kind of, to figure out what, like where are gaps in education, or where are things that like, wow, this really is, you know, this is a top hitter on an FAQ kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then kind of go from there. And so for me, it's like, if we're going to generate content though, I want to know, and by generate content, gather content. I want to know what we're going to do with it and what support we have from the city to make it like, to make it an official reality.
How much does the city care about it? Like when you talk to them about
I mean, it costs a lot of money. So that's one way. I mean, like recycling is one of the reasons the Conservation Board got started. Like, people wanted us to do this better. I can share this again. Let me share the screen again, because it's relevant for the recording. This was up, a big poster posted right next to the cardboard recycling for quite a while. Finally got taken down, I think because it's pretty, you know, out of date. It was 2019. But you know, the total cost
and that's just for the city.
for the city was, you know, was $50,000 in 2019. And I know that's only gone up.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I mean, now are we going to be able to affect this very much? Gosh, I don't know.
It's
Like,
mostly glass. Half of
Yeah.
it's glass. That's why Billing stopped doing glass.
yeah,
Because it actually, and they did like this whole report, it actually took more carbon emissions to
truck it.
truck it than it did from recycling, but yeah, you look up there, half of it's glass.
Yeah, half the cost.
Four Corners actually stopped doing glass for several years, like around this time. Too, they're just like, it's kind of dumb. It's, you know, environmentally, it's a wash at best, and economically, it's a loss.
Yeah.
So what I'd be doing it. There was so much demand from citizens, residents for it. Oh, and wherever I came from, we did it. Why don't they do it here? They felt like peer pressured to.
Yeah,
To
I'm
do it
saying
again?
we should get rid of glass, I'm just saying that's half.
Yeah,
It is.
It's been an ongoing conversation in communities across Montana, because we don't have any to process it in Montana, so they have to truck.
I remember there was like like when I first sent, like within a year or two of me getting here, I remember there was it was an item on the commission, and they said, are we still gonna do this or not? And they voted to keep doing it, even though it was even though it was this expensive.
Maybe we should just do an education campaign telling people
Well,
to use out of cans. instead
They
of
drink
straws.
out of cans instead of glass. And actually, it's, they, at the bottom of, like, at the bottom of a PDF of the, now, let me see if I can find it, like, the city website. Like, I'm sure that Shannon
Does it say drink
put
out
this
of-
together, and it says
or-
plastic and glass recycling. And down at the bottom, glass recycling. It says, all glass accepted for recycling must be shipped to Salt Lake City. The heavy weight and work required to recycle glass means large amounts of CO2 is released in the process compared to recycling aluminum. If you recycle to help the environment, we encourage you to look at purchasing aluminum over glass containers at the store. Bottom line.
I literally never drink beer.
Yeah, so, now, there's a big asterisk there, which is if you don't recycle, like. Actually, don't buy aluminum. Aluminum is, but if you do recycle aluminum, it's a great thing to do. And maybe there is an opportunity to encourage. Lower glass consumption in our community in general.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a supply side.
There's about that sign that spitball.
This is
Like-
spitball,
I mean,
the public spitball.
first thing I saw on that was that half of it's glass. Like half of the cost is glass. So we can talk about recycling too, but there's also pieces where it's like. Try to get people to use less glass. And maybe it would like. Flow over into, I don't know, I
It's
don't
so
have fully formed thoughts.
I mean,
It's just like that number jumped out to me and I bet it would jump out.
Well, even the statement by the city that says like, hey, glass recycling is. Is good, but please consider aluminum cans instead of glass. If we had a big sign on the glass recycling thing that said that. I wonder how much we would reduce just that.
Yeah.
I wonder how much we would reduce our.
Kind of like low hanging
Yeah.
fruit, like I bet a bunch of people have never seen those numbers. But like maybe they did when they were recycling, I never paid attention to it, right? I noticed it because you put it. on Massive screen in a meeting, whatever. But how many people really look at that? And like, I'm a good example, I probably never would have thought about that, except that I lived in Billings and I knew that it was expensive, but. Just like, hey, the cost of recycling glass is this, a glass bottle is this versus aluminum bottle is this. I would be like, all right, never buying glass again. You know what I mean? Like,
Souls.
you're gonna- well,
Yeah.
I mean, I know that sounds like a joke, but in
No.
all reality, it's something simple like that, that just makes you be like, well, I'm not gonna do that again. Like.
Yeah.
They sell the same thing in aluminum.
Right.
So I'm not gonna buy glass anymore. So I don't know, I think there's some stuff like that that is like super simple that we could think about as just like a start.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's exactly. Those are the type of things that people that are like tangentially into the environment, but don't have enough time to really dive in. I think latch on to, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't need glass. Although,
That's right. And then they feel better, which is what we're going for.
and I hope,
And they actually help.
yeah,
And that's the challenge too. I think that's a good point, like, about helping, like, there's. I mean, if you're already recycling glass. You're already,
you care.
here's another one, you're crushing it.
I like, although
This is,
you
you
should
know,
crush your hands as we learn.
oh, yeah, that's right,
I do have a can crusher.
Right. yeah, I have a whole thing on that, I thought that was the stupidest thing in the world until my wife got us one. And because I was like, it's so much fun to line up all the cans and then just go like stomp, like Godzilla style and stomp, 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 stomp. But then I got a can crusher and wow, that's stooping over. Okay, so is there a way to capture some of this? Because I'd like to wrap up this discussion and have like. how do we, like, what's next kind of thing? Like, what do we do? What do we do? I mean, can I make a couple suggestions first? Because I did come up with some things.
So I gotta make it to the farmer's market.
I do too. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So let's sum this up. I think it would be really useful to have an update for that sign that I showed you. The one
Yeah.
that shows the
Single
cost,
sheet, oh, that, yeah.
the cost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that will inform a few things.
Yes, but in a strategic way that shows that. I don't think it's just the sign, it's like the message as well. Okay, so
Yeah.
we're on the same page.
Actually-
Be something I'm like.
Yeah, I'll
no
say,
aluminum nuts
I don't even know that,
something.
I don't even know that the sign is my point. That's great that you clarified that. I think that I want to see the spreadsheet update.
Okay,
Like, I want an update on the numbers.
Yeah.
So that we can make decisions like, look, we think it's justified to go and make this giant sign to put on the glass container.
Yeah.
Like, we just think that's the justification that we should go do that right now. This is a great point of communication that we just need.
but I think the numbers, like, seriously, that shocked me. So something along the lines with like the numbers on it of like how much it costs to recycle. A can versus
Yeah.
a glass, real small, and I'm like, go aluminum.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love
I mean, once we have the updated numbers. And, you know, if we want to start talking about CO2, which can be kind of a slippery slope. We could. But it's hard to do like a life cycle carbon assessment and do these sorts of things. But the bottom line is like, just gather what we can and then have another meeting and say, we're specifically, this meeting is specifically to look at these updated numbers. And see what messages from these numbers need to be communicated.
Mhm.
And then that's our next thing,
I love
right? So we can ask that. And, you know, we can ask the city to help us to update that. I've already actually gotten most of the invoices from. She sent them to me. I just,
it.
I was already moving along that. So that was just, and then should we, like. Should we just go ahead and try to go to the farmer's market and help out?
Well, that was my other thing when we were talking about the farmer's market is like, it's PCEC. So there's also the opportunity, like the Yellowstone Bend Citizens Council asked me to give. A presentation about. Something. It wasn't related to the conservation board, but.
Yeah.
And they have like no waste thing. And then, you know, PCC does this stuff, and I'm sure that they would be welcome to the conservation. Board. I don't know, I hang out at the farmer's market and talk to people.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, I think the reason though is to figure out what questions people are asking. I mean, I did a presentation very similar to this. To the Rotary Club, and the number of people that asked questions that just because I had done a tour at Four Corners, I could answer. Like, it was amazing, you know, and I started to get a real sense of like what people don't know and what they do know, and what maybe their misconceptions are.
It's confusing, honestly.
It is, it's desperately confusing.
Can you confuse them?
I mean,
I tried to reason. them.
I think we have an opportunity here to just like kind of gather some of this stuff and then just like, I mean, giant posters that say the messages that we think really helps move the needle in our community and keep people informed the way they want to. And then those posters can be turned into handouts. They can be turned into,
Yeah.
you know,
I think that doing like the PCEC
Yeah.
will let us when people are recycling at the farmer's market. I think that would be great. Cause like a person interaction is way better.
100%.
And I know I'd be willing to volunteer to do this when we see the opportunity, but, I think.
Right, yeah. Yeah, and that was kind of the thing, like, if you want, you know, it's kind of that classic, like, marketing thing, you know, people consume information in different ways for different. Some of them really like the person to person, some of them really do not want to talk to anybody about it, but they will absolutely be quiet.
Yeah.
And other people, you know, really want to watch a video. Which is another thing that maybe one day. Would be something we try to get produced in some way.
Yeah.
But I think that would be something. Around,
Yeah,
I don't feel like making another. I think, yes,
I mean.
so,
I donate, so I don't-
hey, so I will take the action of following up and with the numbers thing, and getting that updated, since I already asked Faith for all the stuff, and I was already moving that along. Do you want to, I guess, do you want to,
I'm the only
take-
one here.
I know, do you want to, see about just seeing if we can tag along with the recycle booth?
Yeah, if we get out of here in time, we'll just do it. then.
We could, yeah. And also maybe like while we're there, ask the people who have been there doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Um,
it's gonna be like, I just got back from my conservation board meeting. We wanna talk about everything.
And Mackenzie, you now know so much because of my amazing presentation.
We actually did learn a lot and that you're being sarcastic. But some of it, I was like, wait, what?
I actually did walk away from that tour like absolutely stoked. You know what? I love gray areas, like it's my favorite thing, like I really feel like you get to know something. Cool, so that was,
People at PCAC anyways, I'll just see who's there and. And if I don't know any of them, then I'll just, a couple of them
yeah,
and ask for a combo. Does it sound good?
sounds great. And I would just say. Point of order stuff. If we do gather there, we should just. Let the city know we'll be doing that so that we can all go instead of, and do like public notice. Instead of. Like. Having to just, it would just be better, and we could even, we could even let people know, conservation board will be at the,
Mhm.
whatever, I think the city loves that kind of stuff anyway, because they show that, people are being engaged.
Yeah.
So I think that's,
I'm happy to volunteer for a Wednesday sometime. If that's. If we need.
because of my kids, I am at the farmer's market every single week.
I just
No
love.
matter what. Unless I'm not here. Okay, well, let's get out of here. I do. We do have another agenda item, but because Grant isn't here, I don't really want. To get into it, if that's
Water
okay.
conservation or
Um,
bylaws.
water conservation and bylaws. So, I make a motion to, and maybe we might need to note, to make these agenda items. Items on our next meeting.
I stopped taking notes during the discussion because I got way too into it.
No, it's okay,
But
it's
the
okay,
emotions at least.
yeah. But just, even if you just take a photo of the page or something and send it to me. Yeah. Sure. Take it.
To move,
I make a motion to table. Agenda items C and D, so the water conservation education program and the bylaw discussion. For the next. Conservation board meeting.
second,
All in favor?
I,
Aye. Cool. We had nobody from the public join. Thank you, farmer's market. There's usually a couple of people. I make a motion to. Adjourn the meeting.
second,
All in favor?
I.
Meeting adjourned. Let's stop.